Based on the past two topics that we've been talking about, direct and inverse, your job is to figure out how do you know if it takes 4 hours for 5 painters to paint a house, then it should take 2 hours for 10 painters. So think about your inverse, think about your direct, which one applies, how would you know that this is the case? I'll give you a couple minutes to think about that. Alright, does anyone think they know how we could figure this out? Anyone think this is direct or inverse? Have an opinion on one or the other? Do you have an opinion on, do you think it's direct or inverse? Why? So you're going from here to here, but you would have to talk about these two together and these together. So either divide or multiply and see if you get the same thing. So let's say we divided. If we divided these two, and let's say we said that the number of painters depends on, the number of hours depends on the number of painters. So this would be our, I'm touching things that I shouldn't have. Okay, try again. Well, if 4 was y and 5 was x, and we said this was, let's take a guess. Do we think inverse, direct? 50-50 chance. Someone guess. Direct or inverse? Okay, so if it's direct, this was y, this was x. So 4 divided by 5, that's going to be some decimal. 0.8. And then 2 divided by 10 would be 1/5, which is 0.2. Not the same, so they're not direct. But if we were to multiply, 4 times 5 would give us 20. 2 times 10 would give us 20. So it would be inverse. Another way we would know it's inverse is the more painters we have, the less time it takes. As one goes up, the other goes down, and vice versa. They don't go up and down together. One goes up and one goes down. So those are different ways you could have set up an equation, a bunch of different things. So be thinking about things like that. And then everyone look at the notes I put on your desk. So we're going to talk through this first page, and then we're going to do the next front and back, whatever questions you guys have from that, and that's all we're doing today. So after that, you can work on delta math, retake work, missing assignments, all those things. So let's go through this first. This recap of all of the information that we've been talking about for the last 2 classes. Direct variation, set of ordered pairs that have a constant. To find that constant k is y over x. For inverse, you multiply y times x to find that k. These are our 2 equations. For direct, y equals kx. For inverse, y equals k over x. There are different examples of what those look like. To check to see, is this direct or is this inverse, you can do exactly what we just did. Either divide them or multiply to see, do we get the same k value for both. The graphs, direct is a line that goes to the origin. Inverse is that curve, hyperbola. This isn't really how you solve for it, so if you want to rewrite this, you can. Solve for k, and then solve for missing variable. So solve for k, and then solve for the missing variable is what that last one should say. Then I just realized it's missing the very bottom piece. How can you identify a graph that illustrates a direct variation? It's a line that goes to the origin or that goes to the center. The y-intercept of a direct variation is 0 always. Look at the next page and find any questions you want to see, do go over, have questions about. need a refresher on? Maybe you tried and you just want to see, are you correct? All of these questions are asking, are these direct, inverse, or neither? So you have to either recognize the original equation, recognize that it's solving for k in a correct format, find k to see if it's direct or inverse, and then on the next page is graphs. When we come back, we are not coming back to this page. So any questions you have, I would ask. Start with those two. If we have any others, we can do those. So number 4. Right now, this says x times y equals negative 18. If you look at the front page, if that looks like one of your equations, the direct or inverse, or if it looks like how we solve for k, then we can figure out is it direct or inverse, or does it not look like either of them, then we can say neither. So as is, without solving anything, does this look like one of our equations? Ivan, you're saying yes, which one?
Direct. Wait.
Direct would be your y equals kx, which is not quite what this looks like. Or your k equals y over x. So not quite. It does look like one of them. An inverse, but which equation? The actual equation or your k?
Okay.
How we find k? Because x times y or y times x equals k. It does look like that, so it would be inverse. But let's say you forgot about that. You could solve this for y. I'll move this up here. If I solve this for y, how would I get rid of x? Divide. So then y equals negative 18 over x, which is the inverse equation. So either way, it is inverse. Questions on that one? For number 5, this is going to be linear. It's going to be some line. So that means it's either going to be direct or it's going to be neither. But you have to solve for it. If you don't see something with a 0, you can almost assume it's going to be neither, but solve for it just to make sure. Get rid of x by subtracting on both sides. We have negative 3y equals negative x plus 15. Divide everything by negative 3. So that y equals positive 1/3 x minus 5. Is this direct or neither? Yes, if you're not sure. It is neither. It is a line, but the line intercept is not 0, so it is neither. Other questions on this page? Look at the back of the same page. What questions do we have on 13 through 20? Which one? 18. Okay. Any others? And 20. Okay. Alright, let's start with those. So for 18, we have a graph. We have to decide decide, is this direct, inverse, or neither? Remember that direct is a line that goes to the origin. Your inverse is the hyperbola with the two curves. Is this direct, inverse, or neither? Neither. It is not a line, and it is not this. So it is neither. For number 20, this is very much how we were solving this the other day with the order pairs in the table. Same process, but you have to know how to read this mapping. So it has arrows that show you what goes with what. So this x goes with this y, and so on and so forth. And then if it's not under a specific objective, so if this wasn't indirect or inverse, you would have to guess. So which one do you think it might be? Direct or inverse? So I heard inverse and I saw direct. So let's check direct first and then we'll do inverse. If you think it's direct, you're going to do y divided by x. And see if you get the same thing for each one. Start dividing. 2 divided by 3. 4 divided by 6. What would that simplify to? 2/3. 8 divided by 12. What would that simplify to? Also 2/3. And then 12 divided by 18. What would that simplify to? Also 2/3. So since we got 2/3 for each one, by dividing, it is direct. Let's say you chose inverse first. If we started to multiply, which I'll write down here. If I multiply these together, 2 times 3 would give us 6. I'll write this on the other side. 4 times 6 would give us 24. Already, we don't have to continue. I see these are not going to be the same. That would show you it has to be direct. Now, if they weren't the same, multiplying or dividing, it would be neither. That would not be either case. Okay. Other questions on 20 or other questions on this page / the one we were just on? We're not moving forward after that. When we come back, I will explain why we did this for those that weren't here. But for the rest of the class, you can be working on going through the rest of 1 through 20. You can work on Delta Math. Remember that you have one due today on inverse. So if you haven't finished that, I would do that. If you haven't done the one from Friday, that was direct, do that. If you have other missing Delta Maths, you could be working on that. Retake work. If you're missing a test, I would advise getting that done in class today. Or you can be on your phones, but if your grade is not